So, who are the major players in tech sales? Pretty straightforward. First of all, you have your customers, right? Private organizations, businesses, anyone that wants to consume technology products and solutions to improve their business. Government can be a customer as well, but we're focusing more on the private side of business. On the other side are the vendors, people that create the tech to be consumed, your Apples, your Microsofts. Now, these vendors are usually selling to customers directly or indirectly, and we'll talk about indirect sales and channel sales in a different lesson. In the middle of that, usually between customers and vendors, are your partners, and these are privately owned businesses that will usually sell vendor solutions and also add a layer of service of implementation or management to make a little bit of money also through the margins that they make on selling the vendor solutions. Some other major players include the distributors, and they're an intermediary between the vendor and the partner itself, and they usually provide scale as providing support, physical distribution of product, assisting vendors in helping service their partner ecosystem effectively so they can sell into the market effectively as well. Government, they are just more of an umpire in the tech sales game, providing the laws and regulations that need to be adhered to make sure everyone is protected. So that can include things like, fair commercial practices, making sure that you are selling honestly and not, providing misleading information, that sort of stuff, as well as things particularly in tech sales, data privacy and management systems like the GDPR in Europe and examples like that. Other smaller but important players are peak bodies or peak industry bodies. And these are associations that are within specific industries that customers will network and collaborate with to share best practices of what's going on in their specific industry. And usually these are quite influential in the tech sales game, particularly in industries and verticals that do not have direct competition. If they are territory based, like a local government or a regional department for a particular service, such as a water corporation that has a specific area of territory to manage and people to manage in that territory, a lot of these peak bodies are very influential because they are sharing best practices amongst a community that does not compete. Lastly, you've got public resources accessible via the internet, forums, Reddit, YouTube, anything that's out in the public that people use for personalized experiences and feedback on technology solutions and what's just going on in the industry in general. So here we have a map of the tech sales ecosystem. So what I've done here is, again, showing you the holistic ecosystem and the major players and pointed out the major flows of money, information, and products, because that's what's important, right, is to understand holistic flows and where your key leverage points are inside this ecosystem, which we'll break down in other lessons. But you can see here it all is customer-centric, or all about that customer. In here, you can see that how they interplay with most of the major players. Customers have to deal with the government via taxes. Government provides laws and regulations. Customers also interface with the public resources to understand insights and get, general feedback, user feedback, solution feedback on what's useful and what's not compared to what the vendors are flogging them day to day. Peak industry bodies, they are influencing customers with best practices, getting insight about the industry so they can learn more. And then customers are interfacing with usually vendors or partners to get their technology solutions, either directly through the channel, which is that big red line you can see between vendors and customers, or indirectly via the partner ecosystem using indirect sales and that service layer that we've talked about. Distributors are in there in the value chain in the tech side of things, and the vendor and the partner side of things as an intermediary. And how that works is the vendors will pass on their products to distributors who will add a margin to distribute that for the partners who will add their own margins to sell that to a customer, and that's how they make money. Right? So this is a holistic, high-level understanding. There are some other lines here that are not worth talking about, like government influencing peak industry bodies and public resources. These are the main flows of products, money, information that you need to know and that are relevant to your growth. So some key takeaways here. In this ecosystem, you want to understand direct versus indirect sales. We'll talk about that in another lesson. You want to understand what the government regulations and standards are for your ecosystem. So if you're in Europe, you want to understand GDPR and other data privacy regulations. You also want to understand, if you're in a particular industry, who are these peak industry bodies? Who is influencing your customer with best practices and knowledge? Because that is a great way to influence an entire industry if you've got the power to integrate your solutions into those best practices and use social and influential selling through these bodies to increase your share of wallet and your mind share. Finally, find out the public resources in your industry. Where are your people inside your industry going for more information? Are they using Reddit? Is there a subreddit? Are there particular YouTubers or influencers that have got a lot of power and a lot of capability and influence, hence the term influencer, in your ecosystem, in your industry? Find these people out, hear what they're saying, because that will influence your customer's perspective on